The Girl and the Dolphin by John Boyd. The story was published in the March-April 1973 issue of Galaxy magazine. Read by Darrell T. Smith II for my channel, Quasar Spectra. The Girl and the Dolphin. Of late, there have been pods of monographs written by linguists cum psychiatrists inferring that Celia Hammersmith drowned herself off Point Fermin because she could find no more worlds to conquer and or could never find love. Such speculations are untreated ambergris. After pioneering the greatest breakthrough in the history of linguistics, Celia Hammersmith died inadvertently from raptures of the deep. I know because I was there, sharing her rapture. It is of public record that the Celia Hammersmith College of Delphinology was opened by government grant to exploit the talents of the world's foremost linguist. Of course, there were political overtones to the establishment of Celia's Hermosa Beach facility. Politicians were wooing the woman's vote, but the grant reflects accurately the preeminence she had at 31 achieved in her profession. CHCD was founded to train delphinologists and to research methods of communicating with dolphins. I count it no small honor that I was the first dolphin in Celia's tank. Our meeting was inevitable. Hermosa Beach is only a few miles north of the marine land of the Pacific, where I was the star of the great aquatic burlesque. All dolphins are burlesque artists, Celia once told me. I was the hammiest of the hams. My act always brought down the net. Rising out of the water with a plastic top hat abaft my beak, I would grasp a cane under my right flipper and, balancing almost vertically on my flukes, thrash half across the tank while the band played The Man Who Broke the Bank at Monte Carlo. We dolphins have an affinity for human beings. To my natural inclination, add the conviviality of a hot-blooded Mediterranean dolphin, all male and 8 feet long. Tank-born and aquarium-bred, to me, Homo semi-sapiens was as familiar as my mother's milk. Still, until I met Celia, you all looked alike to me, of one sex, upright and bifurcated. Your swiveled heads and stuck-out ears are your least attractive features. Still, I'm tolerant. Nothing is wrong with your head that a hearing aid would not fix, as Celia recognized. She did not have the ears for our frequencies, but she devised an acoustic converter attached to an underwater listening device and put an old dolphin into the tank with me. Since he was almost too feeble to bounce an echo off a net, I gave him a few turning directions at first. An overhead camera revealed his responses to my instructions, and Celia, alone in her office, was deciphering the sounds. At night, the old bull talked of his youth in the open ocean, of the cows he had led to calving, the straight-line swimming, the fights with sharks. He was a Nebraska farmer telling a Tasmanian about the delights of corn husking. All I got from his stories was an attack of agoraphobia. The thought of all that water outside my tank scared the hell out of me. So there I cowered, at the age of 7, nostalgic over my aborted career in burlesque while the oldster wheezed and clicked. In her office, Celia Hammersmith was listening to the old bull's tales with far more interest than I. One night, the center net of the tank was lowered, trapping me in the landward end of the tank and the oldster on the seaward side. Then the sea gates were opened, and the oldster swam out into the lagoon, wheezing, "So long, cousin." For a while I listened to his soundings and got him beyond the breakwater. The gates closed, the net lifted, and I was alone in the tank. By instinct and choice, dolphins are gregarious. Nothing is lonelier than a lonely dolphin. 3 days and 3 nights I spent without seeing a living being. Meals were fed to me from a dump bucket on an overhead trolley. Celia had put me in solitary. On a night of a full moon, with no sound in the tank but that of my own breathing, I heard a splash followed by the flop-flop of a human swimmer approaching me. Then a hand was stroking my flipper, another tweaking my dorsal as my tympans were quivered by a gently mocking vibration. Well met by moonlight, lonely cetacean. What would you think, cousin, if your house cat looked up to tell you it was feeling ill? For a certainty, you would look for the ventriloquist before you went for the catnip. At least you would have that alternative to my complete stupefaction. My name is Celia, the voice continued. You're called Happy. I want to be your friend. Since friend is a dangerously amorphic word in Delphine, I was shocked into deeper silence and had to assume it was a she who spoke. Happy is a good name. It's the sound of leaping and splashing and tossing a ball through a hoop. It fits you. You were especially chosen by me after I saw you in the burlesque show. Such verve, such marvelous spontaneity, such intelligence. Be aware, mine is a liberal translation. Delphine is communicated in larger units and faster than human speech. It has to be. Without that survival device, the only dolphin extant would be Grampus orca, the killer whale. Happy, we'll never get to know each other unless you speak. I'm talking to you through a flutter diaphragm held to the roof of my mouth. My earplugs are acoustic converters. I'll understand you, so speak to me, Happy. Quit being so damned coy. My silence was not coyness. The dolphin's code is a complex Kabbalah, and my instincts held it sacred. Without it, we might lose dominion over the sea, and despite my lack of bigotry, I was a little wary of man. What sea dweller would not be after Eniwetok and Bikini? Celia's voice had lost its peak when she spoke again. Our species have much in common, Happy. You are lords of the sea, and we are lords of the land. We're both warm-blooded, intelligent mammals. My hand is a rudimentary flipper. Oh, Celia was smooth. Ponder her last remark. But I kept silent. I repeat, I like human beings, but they are not dolphins. I won't hurt you, Happy. I'm a cow, and you're a bull. Another remark worth pondering. So humans were not of one sex. Don't you like me a little, Happy? She tweaked my dorsal again. Say something for me, and I'll give you an extra herring for breakfast. I would not say anything, but I gave her an affectionate nudge with my flipper. After all, she said she was a cow. Well, that's worth a sardine, she laughed. But you think it over. I'll keep you in solitary tomorrow to give you plenty of time to think, and I'll be back tomorrow night. I simply must discover if your verbal wit equals the comic mimicry that always brought down the net at the great aquatic burlicue. So long, cousin. The loneliest sound I have ever heard was the flip-flop of her withdrawing strokes. But a linguistic note is in order here. Some African dialects employ a click speech similar to the click of a dolphin, and some Canary Islanders communicate by whistling. Celia's background in such languages helped her to synthesize an almost flawless Delphine. I deliberated until next evening, since all I could do was deliberate. The old bull was the code breaker, not me, but my reluctance to engage in interspecies communication was false pride. As Celia had pointed out, dolphins and men were co-equal lords of sea and land. Fraternization, viewed in this light, became nothing more than noblesse oblige. Besides, after being in solitary all day, by nightfall I was willing to whistle back to a whistle boy. When I heard her splash into the tank, I silently sank to the bottom, listening to her splashing above me and calling, "Happy, where are you?" I was rising to nudge her with my beak and to surface beside her, rolling over to reveal my underside. As a delphinologist, Celia surely recognized the signal, flashing the white. She scratched my belly and slapped it, asking, "How does that feel, Happy?" "Like wallowing in a school of tuna." My reply was not Lafayette, we are here, or one short step for a man, but it was the first concept delivered to a human being by a dolphin through the fibrillation of a blowhole. "Now it's down to business, you teaser," she said, shaking my flipper. "First you must learn human metaphors. You should have said, 'It's more fun than a barrel of monkeys.'" So, my beginning association with Celia Hammersmith was purely on a teacher-student basis. With a confidence approaching arrogance, she had readied an English to Delphin translating machine and began immediately to pipe lectures into my tank. My first week was spent on vocabulary exercises and the rudiments of English grammar. My second on a survey of human history. From the knowledge gained in such fashion, cousins, I gathered that you've come a long way from the day you crawled out of the ocean to crack crabs and develop your rudimentary flippers. I am not sure in which direction you've come. Since sleep is a luxury few sea creatures can afford, I listened night and day to the lectures. The only break in my lessons came when Celia paddled out in the evenings to review my day's intake in a question-and-answer period. When I asked the wrong questions, I got a no comment and was deprived of my belly slap. Celia was teaching me manners as well as metaphors. In my fourth week, I taped, via a translating machine, the first monograph authored by a dolphin, Delphinic Idioms and Speech Patterns. Despite its historical value, the Institute's publications department refused to publish it because it lacked footnotes. This despite a paragraph in the dissertation explaining the absence of the concept foot in Delphin. Nevertheless, Celia appointed me instructor in Delphin and assigned me 2 tank-side classes a day. My lectures were spoken into a translating machine and broadcast to my students in English. The students took notes, but never laughed at my witticisms. My humor must have been lost in translation. At this stage, I would have preferred to strut across the tank with my top hat and cane, while the band played The Man Who Broke the Bank at Monte Carlo. In the evenings, Celia came to lie beside me on an air mattress and review my lessons. She began to stay longer, often until midnight, and to talk more about herself and her childhood. Gradually, I came to detect nuances in her whistles and clicks which bespoke her sadness over a life which had found its only expression in a driving urge to work. In a way, I was her psychiatrist, but I was also relieved by her presence. The squeaks, squeals, whistles, and clicks of the lectures were silenced when she came, and frankly, I was becoming more interested in Celia and what she thought of me than I was in the Punic Wars. Concerned by my students' indifference to my verbal wit, I asked her one night to give me her evaluation of me as a conversationalist. "Your speech is rhetorical, even flamboyant by human standards, though for all I know you may be a laconic dolphin. Really, there's no way for me to compare your standing with other dolphins unless—" She paused, silent and pensive. "Unless what, Celia?" Suddenly she rolled on her side to face me, speaking with a pell-mell breathlessness, as if she had been suddenly seized by an exciting notion. "Unless I opened the gates some night to let you go out and lure some fellow dolphin back into the tank with you. You could do it, Happy. With your flamboyant rhetoric and fantastic charm, you could talk the horn off a narwhal. Would you like to try?" I considered her request, which had as many ramifications as a giant squid. I would have preferred an electric eel in my tank to a fellow dolphin to share Celia's attention, and to get one, as Celia well knew, I would have to bring back the whole school and turn my tank into a sardine can. Besides, if she needed another dolphin, she could requisition one at the government's expense. So why had she made such a proposal? Suddenly I intuited the answer. Celia was testing my loyalty to her. But an unproved intuition is an idle fancy. I had to be sure this one was right, or become the world's first red-faced jackass dolphin. I heaved a long, sad sigh from my blowhole and fibrillated wistfully. It might be fun to cruise out and cut some lovely young cow from the herd to share my tank and learn my tricks. Oh, no, I'm permitting no ménage à trois in this tank. Celia did not know it, but she had been tossed on my fluke. My intuition was precisely correct. Well, there goes my contribution to science, I said. Science? Ha! From that smarmy sigh, I'd say that hanky-panky's more like it. There'd been a shift in our relationship, and the time for honesty had come. I nudged her raft contritely. Celia, I was just splashing a little spray in your eyes. You're the only companion I want. My wit and my rhetoric are only for you. So saying, I emitted a longer, smarmier sigh. Oh, bosh, fiddlesticks, she said, but she tweaked my dorsal. Perhaps it was on that night that a channel marker floated past, and an unseen helmsman changed our course. Certain I am that I have never felt closer to any mammal, cetacean or Homo sapiens, and our rapport stirred a curiosity in my mind. In a manner I intended to be casual, but actually was tense. I asked, Celia, would you pipe me a course in human anatomy? If she noticed my tension, she did not let on, and piped in the course. Soon I was studying the students at the tank side who were studying me. Females, I noticed, carried an extra set of buttocks on their chests. Celia told me they were mammary protuberances, which all female mammals had in common, she as well as my own mother. Looking at Celia's, I had to take her word for it, but the life of me I couldn't remember Mama's. She augmented my course in human anatomy with evening remarks on comparative anatomy. Human mating is a contact sport. Dolphin mating is a collision sport in which a sonic lure replaces courtship. Buffering the tale with long Latin words, Celia told me of an attendant in a Florida aquarium who sounded in jest a recording of the mating call of a female Delphinus delphis while submerged. The wag's last memory was of 16 torpedo-shaped objects hurtling toward him at 30 knots. In seconds he was sodomized to shreds. Anatomy became the next to last science that I studied. Celia was changing my curriculum to emphasize the arts. In order to enrich my metaphorical language, I was given 4 hours of poetry every morning, 15 minutes of Shakespeare, and 3 hours and 45 minutes of romantic poetry. Shakespeare's good, but he's a little too rich for my blood. From the outset, I felt an affinity for Lord Byron, which grew stronger as the strangely disturbing concepts of romance swam within my ken. I learned of women wailing for their demon lovers and wondered about human female preferences. I pondered such lines as, "How do I love thee?" My favorite poem was Byron's To Augusta, and Celia's was Leda and the Swan. She also read me certain passages from Jeffers' Rowan Stallion. One poem, at the time our mutual favorite, which I never wish to hear again, is The Forsaken Merman. Our discussions about the concepts of the poems bred an intimacy between Celia and me. Although, by using Latinate circumlocutions, Celia explained the mechanics of romance, she was never able to define love. One must feel it, Happy. Love can't be defined without first being felt. Shelley called it desire of the moth for the star, a devotion to something afar from the sphere of our sorrow. A sadness in her voice pained me. To divert her, I asked, "What's a moth?" "A fluttering, light-seeking insect." "Oh, Happy, I must pipe you a course in entomology." I had stuck my flipper in my blowhole. I needed a course in entomology like I needed a course in home economics, but I had diverted Celia. Rather abruptly, I returned to the original subject. Now that we've heard about love from Shelley, what's the word from Hammersmith? I confess, Happy, love is one of the few areas in which I'm not an expert. You see, I've never been in love. I'm quite tall for a woman. Because of my intelligence and my height, boys always looked on me as an object. On the other hand, I feel uncomfortable with a male under 6 feet long with an IQ of less than 160. Still, I haven't answered your question, have I?" A pensive huskiness replaced the sadness in her voice. "I think love is a rapport between a male and a female mammal who regard each other with tenderness, who sense each other's moods, who delight in each other's wit and rhetoric. But I'm so busy, Happy. Any male I could even consider would have to be one involved with me in my work." She sighed and continued, "Now, I suppose I am loved by my students, not as an object, but as an institution, the Celia Hammersmith College of Delphinology." "You are uniquely beloved, Celia," I assured her. "Most students revere their institution only as an abstraction. Only the students of Hammersmith have their alma mater embodied in so lovely a package of such infinite variety." My remark was pure spermaceti. I was hard put to tell the difference between the sexes, much less recognize intersex comeliness, but my words served their purpose, which was to cheer her up, for suddenly she turned to me. "Happy, don't you ever yearn for the free sweep of the open ocean, the wind's song, the whitecaps dancing in glee?" From the spontaneity of her remark, I knew she was voicing a well-thought plan, and her wishes were not mine. The idea of all that ocean out there still scared the hell out of me. Noncommittally, I answered, "The old bull spoke of it with longing, but I'm afraid of depths. In anything over 9 fathoms, I'd be lost." Then I added the clincher, I thought. "Once I got out there, I'd never find my way back to you. I'd be with you, Happy. I'd guide you home." Then she told me the legend of the boy on the Dolphin and whimsically suggested that we rewrite the legend as The Girl on the Dolphin. So contagious was her enthusiasm that within 5 minutes I was taking Celia, mounted abaft my dorsal, for a spin around the tank. Maneuvering was easy enough, although the wool of her bathing suit chafed me slightly. We planned a shakedown cruise on the morrow evening to test the strength of my phobia and my fatigue factor. Celia promised to eliminate the skin irritant by removing the bathing suit if I kept her nudity secret. I told her my name was Happy, not Gabby. It was no surprise to me the next night when she arrived at the tank with a harness designed to my contours, which must have taken a week to fabricate. In the darkness she harnessed me, slithered out of her bathing suit, opened the sea gates, and mounted me. I moved out at a modest 3 knots to minimize my wake and to prevent night strollers on the jetty from spotting my naked rider. So, by stealth and by night, we slipped the confines of the shore to range the shimmering spaceways of the sea. My agoraphobia vanished beneath the bright beauty of the girl with golden, spray-wet hair, who met my undulations with her own, and so light a burden was never borne by Dolphin. Celia was a natural-born, bare-tailed, bareback rider. Off Portuguese Bend, she found she could stay astride me by leg pressure alone and tossed the harness away. The last artifact of man was gone from between us. Night and silence claimed us as we climbed and descended the heaves of the offshore swells, and the wine-dark ocean was less a mystery to me than the joys of our passage. Finally, she guided me home, steering me with nudges of her kneecaps. In truth, I could have found my way back to Hermosa Beach via the Great Circle route from Taiwan, but I didn't tell Celia. I enjoyed the kneecap nudges. We got home around 1 o'clock. Thereafter, our nights were filled with revelry, which began when Celia whopped my belly with her heels and cried, "Away, Happy! Westward ho!" Oh, they were joys, our nightly gambols. With my sonar, we avoided driftwood. With Celia's eyesight, we swam wide of the running lights of vessels. In the darkness, our passing was marked only by our phosphorescent wake. which I now think of as a symbol of our love, so bright, yet fading so swiftly into eternal darkness. My favorite of the games we played was Crack the Whip. I would try to unseat Celia by quick, high-speed turns, thus forcing her to grip me tighter with both legs, both arms, and all four buttocks. Her favorite game was Bucking Bronco, in which I tried to toss her from my back with extreme and rapid undulations. In this game, she could only retain her seat by thigh pressure and by arching her body to maintain her balance. With her shrieking, "Ride 'em, cowgirl!" and my churning up a few square miles of water, there must have been some surprised albacore in our rodeo grandstands. Often when I felt her thighs relax, I would glide from beneath her and listen, from 3 or 4 fathoms, to her thrashing about on the surface and calling my name. When her breathing grew labored, I would rise beneath her. It was a way of keeping the knee pressure up. At times, I lulled in the ocean. Celia stretched alongside, her head resting on my flipper, and we discussed the meaning of life, marine and terrestrial. One night, with San Clemente Island bearing 036 degrees true and 20 miles distant, I asked, "Celia, what do you think my IQ is?" "It's incalculable. An IQ measures a human average, and there's only one happy known to man." "Do you think it's over 160? "Perhaps. You're the most brilliant dolphin I ever talked to." "Thanks." "Why do you ask a stupid question like that?" "I'm over 6 feet long. The thought came to me that if my IQ were over 160, I might qualify as your ideal male mammal." She giggled, the one human sound any dolphin recognizes, and said, "For all the good it does you, you are my favorite male mammal." I knew what she meant from the supplementary lectures in comparative anatomy, and simply to let her know that I understood the meaning of her mirth, I said, "Ah, yes, the sonic, romantic barrier." She had been lying with her head on my flipper, completely relaxed. Suddenly I felt her neck muscles tighten. "Happy, I've forgotten something. We must hurry home. Now." As she spoke, she was swinging astride me, and the rapport we had established told me she was a very frightened girl. Calling to her to hang tight, I beat shoreward at 22 knots, and she did not relax until we entered the harbor. By then, I had hypothesized an explanation for her terror, verified by her remark as she closed the sea gates. "Happy, we'll have to stop these nightly rambles. Lack of sleep is killing me." As far as it went, she spoke the truth. We were in early, and it was 2:30 a.m., but my remark had alerted her to a danger neither of us had considered. If we had been 30 miles out to sea and a female dolphin anywhere within a 10-mile radius had sounded her love call, Celia's great and loyal friend, Happy, would have been off like the Flying Dutchman, leaving Celia to the loneliness of the long-distance swimmer. Among male dolphins, the song of the siren is not a legend but a fact. I could not, in all honesty, dissuade Celia from her unvoiced fear, except, as a racial memory, I had never heard the siren song, but I was getting eager to hear the music. So it was back to the air mattress in the tank and our evening talks, now grown lackadaisical despite the affection between us. Lolling in the confines of a tank grown oppressive, we shared our unvoiced dream of high romance beyond the seawall. Celia grew irritable and petulant. I lost my appetite, even for quinault salmon. Our inner tensions grew. We were wasting away together. Finally, Celia could stand it no longer. On the 10th night of our captivity, she made an announcement. "Happy, I'm going to Marineland tomorrow." "Not to get me a fellow tank mate, I hope." "Would you be terribly upset if I did?" "I'd ask for a transfer back to burlesque. You could change my name to Unhappy. I'd sulk. How could I talk to you with some beakish female listening to every sound?" "Of course I'd never share you, Happy. No, I'm going to listen to some tape recordings, and I'm giving you a day off from lectures and lecturing. I want you well rested, and if it will ease your mind, I'll pipe in something diverting. Would you like Brahms, Beethoven, Bach? No, I'll take the complete works of Byron. Why do you want me rested? We're going to sea again tomorrow night. With that, I flipped her air mattress and went leaping around the tank in confined joy. When she clambered back atop the mattress, I was calm enough to listen further. I wish to go to a kelp bed in a Catalina cove. I'm writing a paper on the nocturnal habits of kelp fish. Kelp fish? When did you strike up this romance? A girl likes to have a few secrets, Happy. After we're there, you can patrol the inlet to keep out sharks. This was one hell of a way for me to spend an evening out, patrolling the bar while she fondled kelpfish. I fell silent. What are you thinking about, Happy? The life of a sea lord. One night a bucking bronco, the next a watchdog. Oh, it won't be all work. The next night she came, bringing an aqua lung. Without a word of greeting, she opened the sea gates, took off her bathing suit, put on the aqua lung, and mounted me. She did not give me the customary belly whop with her heels. Instead, she issued me sailing orders in a peculiarly strained voice. Head southwest to the western tip of Catalina and follow the northeast coastline. Don't dally, and don't undulate excessively. Nothing more was said as we put to sea. Her rigid thighs and silence told me she was distraught, consumed by some inner urgency. Keeping to course, I propelled us by a rapid flutter of the flukes, holding my body to a minimal pitch. By 11:30, I am hove to 100 yards offshore from the kelp beds, keeping a sonic lookout for sharks and hoping one will appear. I'm in the mood for splitting a shark's aorta, bursting a liver and sending one of those saw-mouthed bastards spiraling down into that bourne from which no shark returns. My mood is at odds with the scene. Inshore, I hear Celia working among the kelp beds. A full moon is rising above Point Fermin. A breeze stands fair from Asia. To westward, along the reaches of the headland, I hear the long withdrawing roar of the surf. Then it came, the beginning solo of a Delphinus angel, the tremulous, quavering, beckoning, flute-like opening. I wheeled. The sound was coming from inshore, flooding the waters of the cove. The music changed to the tympanic ripple of drums, and my body quivered, waiting. The first notes of an organ rose above the drums. The organ notes did it. Before the bar had gone half a measure, I was barreling toward the beach at 40 knots, seeking the source of the siren's song. In 8 feet of water and an aqua lung, I found waiting for me on the sandy bottom all the sirens of legend, Parthenope, Leucosia, Ligeia. Waiting for me was the apotheosis of feminine mammalian beauty, earth mother of the sea-born, queen among women and mistress of oral mimicry, Celia Hammersmith. Celia had listened well to the recordings at Marineland and learned every note of the language of the dolphin's heart. Separated by millennia, the tides of our mammalian blood swirled together again in an eddy, a vortex, a maelstrom. My cousin, my bride, returned to the sea, or at least to its littoral strand. A problem of purchase was solved in the shallows, and returned to her forsaken merman. Together, we erased aeons, and that night Celia Hammersmith found love. By her own admission, later, as we lolled on the sand, I was the most esoteric bit of erotica in the history of feminine diversions. Had we left well enough alone, this treatise need never have been recorded to silence the slithering sprats of conjecturists who insinuate Celia's drowning was suicide. But eons were not enough for one night. Who can turn his gaze away after glimpsing paradise? Coursing homeward, I was dolphin transfigured, bearing woman transfigured. No longer inhibited by propriety, we talked of the wonder we had shared. Celia confessed that I had long been her ideal male, 8 feet long, with an incalculable IQ. "But I love you as much, Happy, for your flamboyant rhetoric, your irrepressible good humor, and your wit." "I'll buy the first two," I said, "but no one laughs at my jokes except you. The others haven't grasped the subtleties of cetacean humor. But give them time. Some day you'll be the world's most famous lie-down comic." In turn, I confessed how I had long adored her whimsy, her golden hair, her downside-up buttocks, and the pressure of her kneecaps abaft my dorsal. "But your singing really gets me, Celia." Somewhere over the Santa Barbara deeps, Celia grew concerned over a lack of reciprocity in our love. I had joined with her on the littoral strand, which made me a shallow-water merman. To make us co-equals in love, she should join with me in this fathomless water and become a true mermaid. I didn't question her logic, but I did point out the problem of purchase we had solved in the shallows. Here the bottom lay furlongs below. Celia's clicks and whistles conveyed an enigmatic whimsy as she told me she could solve the problem. She asked, "Are you game for a gamble in the deeps, Happy?" Women and dolphins are not men. I was willing. "Sing it again, Celia, but skip the flutes and drums, just the organ notes." Above me, I could hear the tempo of Celia's breathing speed up as she put on the mask of the aqualung. She checked the oxygen in the cylinder. She was a romantic, yet a woman, too, at all times practical. Sounding the organ notes, she slipped beneath me and grasped my flippers. My horizontal stabilizers were to be her means of gaining purchase. So slight was the downward tilt the weight of the aqualung gave my body that I failed to notice my increasing angle of descent as my flukes, with powerful strokes, thrust toward a more perfect union. Seeking rapture in the deeps, we both forgot the rapture of the dark deep. Nitrogen narcosis. At 40 or 50 fathoms, Celia muttered dreamily, "Happy, darling, I could float like this forever, but the aqualung's gotta go, it hampers me." So saying, she took off her aqualung and threw it aside. Oh, double-edged rapture. Too late, I realized it was not Celia, but the nitrogen talking. Immediately, I levered her upward. We broke surface at an estimated 60 knots. At the apex of a 20-foot arc, we two parted in silence and spray. Celia hit the water first, spread-eagled on the surface. I landed a few feet beyond her. Vainly calling her name, I swam a circle around her thrice. In the moonlight, her golden hair resembled the petals of a white-stalked sea anemone, rising and falling, ominously horizontal. Then I knew that we would go no more a roving so late into the night. In a final act of homage, I nudged her body shoreward down the shimmering moon path on the sea, carrying her back to the land which had given her birth. So Celia took one last ride with me, but the irrepressible good humor she loved was gone forever. Henceforward I would be happy in name only. Thus did I mourn. But that which shapes us binds all nature with similitudes. Out of the whale comes ambergris, and out of the ambergris the perfume. Out of my great grief came a melody, and out of the melody a good humor more irrepressible than ever. As I pushed her body landward, I began to chant, lowly and slowly at first, as a requiem for Celia, the man-song I knew best. Imperceptibly, my body began to undulate to the rhythm of the requiem. I stepped up the tempo, nudging on the up notes, clicking and whistling more loudly, "For I'm the guy that married the girl who broke up the home of the man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo." You've been listening to pre-1990s speculative fiction readings with a highlight on science fiction by Darrell T. Smith II. Please consider clicking the donation link in the description box. Thank you so much for your time and your imagination.